Well, good morning, everyone. Well, back on December 9th, 2012, I discovered Sid Rosenberg. And at the time, I didn't know who he was. It was a Sunday morning. I went to my father's house because it was like 2 weeks away. We were preparing for Christmas Eve. My father, my grandmother, and my stepmom and her family, they all cook food and everything. My dad cooks a pig. But that Sunday morning, I'm heading to my father's house, and as I always do, I go to the AM stations, and I'm desperately looking for something. It's like I'm lost in this wilderness of mediocrity. It's the radio down here in South Florida is just absolutely terrible. And so I come across 640, and I hear this voice, and I say to myself, wait a minute, this guy's not from here. And I'm hearing his voice, and I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's from New York, and he's talking about football, and I'm like, this is great, this is amazing, because the radio down here is just so dreadful. Either these guys will put you into a coma, or they just suck up so much to the teams. It's just absolutely terrible. And when I heard Sid Rosenberg, it was like, just picture in your mind, the scene and sound effects, this beaming light and I knew I was going to be listening to someone that wasn't going to sugarcoat anything, that was going to give a perspective that was outside of Florida. There are people here in Florida that don't understand there's other places other than Florida. Like when you get to New York and you land in the airport and you walk out and you're walking around the airport and you realize you're in a real place. And that's exactly what Sid Rosenberg was like. When I heard him, I was like, this is a real radio guy. This is an actual radio guy. This is what someone on the radio is supposed to sound like. And then when I got to hear his morning show, I was absolutely amazed. It's like, man, this guy can talk about anything. And the one thing that was an absolutely breath of fresh air, and you don't hear this very often from talk show hosts. Sid would be interviewing someone, and it doesn't matter who he's interviewing. Anyone random, and it didn't matter if it was about sports, politics, entertainment. Didn't matter who it was. Sid would not have a problem saying to that person that he was interviewing, listen, I'm asking this question out of pure ignorance. I don't know. You know how much of a breath of fresh air that is? That you get a talk show host that has no problem saying, listen, I don't have all the answers. That's why I have this individual on, and that's why I'm asking this individual questions. I'm ignorant towards it. Hopefully, by the end of this interview, I won't. And that's another thing. Sid has no problem admitting when he's wrong, unlike Mike Francesa. Oh, Radio Wars, I love it. But I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked ever since listening to Sid Rosenberg. And I remember the day because I started getting into his past. I bought his book, read his book, which is absolutely wonderful. If you have not purchased and read Sid Rosenberg, You're Wrong and You're Ugly. If you have not read that book, trust me, you got to read it. Even my dad, I let my dad borrow that book, and my father won't even give that book back to me. He keeps reading. I have to buy myself another copy. But I remember researching his past, and I started noticing things from the past on social media of like a certain individual had written an article about him. I forgot the guy's name. Sid's texting me right now. But I noticed that there was a particular individual, forgot his name, see how irrelevant he is. He wrote an article about Sid, bashing him, And I think the same individual called Sid, I think he called him a Sidiot, something like that. It was something in reference to him being an idiot or his fans or whatever. And it bothered me to the point that I realized, you know what, I need to come up with something, help Sid out. And I called Sid on his show, and I said to him, listen, I have an idea, and, you know, it's completely up to you. You're the one who has the final creative call on these things, but I feel that from now on, if you consider yourself a fan of Sid Rosenberg, then you should call yourself a citizen. Instead of the C in the beginning of the word citizen, you put an S. You're a fan of Sid Rosenberg, you're a citizen. And Sid took that idea. He took that idea. All I had was a seed. I came along, I came to the empty field, I planted the seed, and I walked away. Sid came along. He provided the water, the sunlight, the plant food. It grew. It became this. This is my idea that Sid brought to life. Do you have any idea how that makes me feel? I'm just a ham and egger from Riviera Beach, Florida. And someone took my idea and made it into something. And you don't know how it made me feel when I started seeing people from across the country buying these t-shirts. People on television, people on radio. You know, I was shocked, and then it became a cult. And even right now, it's literally a cult. And then in December, I need to be fair about this. No, it was, I found out, I believe it was after New Year's when I finally found out. But Sid and his show had been canceled from 640. And they had let him go, they let his board op go, they let his executive producer go. And when that happened, you had a lot of Sid fans that were sad. Some of them were devastated. Me? Ha! I knew everything was going to be fine. I knew he was going to end up in a better place than what he was. Okay? Because when he started out at that station at 640, it was some, if I may use a Yiddish analogy, it was just some fakakta studio in Pompano. You know what I mean? And then they finally built a new studio, and they got him in a new studio over here in West Palm Beach, which was fine, but I really honestly think they did not do enough to promote him. They didn't. Which, you know, I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but since Sid is outspoken and polarizing, and if he believes that he is right, he does not back down. I think that from the beginning there were people there that worked for that radio company that had it in for him from the beginning. And to me, that tells me, with the lack of promotion of that show, when they finally got in a new studio and they were bought out by new owners and everything, someone had it in for him from the beginning. And lo and behold, he ends up at WABC in New York. He and Bernard McGurk end up with their show, and their ratings is like hundreds of percents higher. It's hundreds of percentage higher than what the ratings were in that time slot before. What they've done is amazing. So right now, Sid is back where he belongs. He belongs in New York. Sid is New York. Maybe one day, if he decides to abuse himself some more and retire and come back down here to Florida and do a show every once in a while, like Stern does a show does a show 3 times a week, hey, we'll be blessed. But trust me when I tell you, those of you living here in South Florida, if you never heard of Sid Rosenberg, you have no idea what we had down here. You have no idea. The crap that we're left with down here, it's so bad. It's just so bad, so coma-inducing. It's sad. But I'm very happy for Sid. Sid, happy birthday. I love you. And for those of you out there that call yourselves a Sid Rosenberg fan, yeah, you may be a Sid Rosenberg fan, but you're not a Sid Rosenberg fan with a Sid Rosenberg Citizen sticker on your car.